Hello, welcome to episode 13 of In the Net podcast. Plenty to cover tonight, but there's only one place to start, and that's by telling you that we've got no Hugh tonight, who's been ever present. Not feeling too great. He's a busy boy, works hard, so he's just going to have an evening off and enjoy watching this and maybe learn something about football. And Lamb's going to be here shortly. So yeah, it's just me and Ib to begin with. Obviously, Ib, we're going to start with the game that happened on Sunday, the big game, England Italy. What are your thoughts?
Um, Hard to take, man. Hard to take. Went so far. Everyone just thought this was it. Um, I guess we'll go into tactics and things like that in a bit, but yeah, in terms of first thoughts, just yeah, hard to take. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same man. Yeah, I was gutted, absolutely gutted. But I mean, it was so strange because we've had such a good tournament in terms of watching England win a semi-final, getting to a final, going 1-0 up so early on, and you just believe, you believe, and then obviously it had to be penalties. Um, it was unfortunate the way it did end because I mean you got to feel sorry for Pickford. He saved two penalties in the shootout, one of them being Jorginho, who's a class penalty taker, and he still ends up on the losing team. But just seemed like we weren't quite good enough on the night. So yeah, I mean, what looking back on it with the benefit of hindsight, what would you have done differently on the day, Ib, to win that game?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it, funnily enough, the episode before, weren't we? Where we were saying like if you go with those tactics, which is very defensive minded, if it doesn't work, then you're going to get, you're going to get the heat from the press and not just the press, the public. And we were talking about how the public are entitled to have an opinion. Like I said, not Southgate, I just mean anyone. No one's immune to criticism. I know some people get really defensive about, oh, he's taken us this far, furthest we've been. And that's fair enough. That's why I think I said last week I conceded the fact that he's proved me wrong. I didn't think we'd get to the final. I thought semi. The way we played against Germany as well, outclassed Germany. Uh, so yeah, definitely credit to Southgate for getting England where no one really. We liked we had that thought that oh, it'd be nice to win it, but no one really believed that we'd win it. Let's be honest, before the tournament. Um, and then to get there. But there's the tactics against, like, say, Scotland or even Italy, where you've got players like Rashford, Sancho. Even if it means like 20 minutes before the penalty shootout, they're tired at the back. You've got two centre backs there who are mid 30s. Um, they're exhausted, and you've got pace sat on the bench. And what do you have to lose there? It's almost like in the end, he was playing for penalties. Let's just get to the
Mm.
penalties, and hopefully we can win it on penalties. But I'm saying at this stage, Italy had nothing to really bring on, and England had like these star players sat there who are playing week in week out in the Prem or in the Bundesliga, and even Grealish came on quite late, didn't he? And you, like I said, you just think with all that talent, we would at some stage a bit not like, yeah, it just seems like we just had all that talent and nothing was happening. And as a fan, you're sat there thinking, you can't surely lose if you bring Rashford on or Sancho on at this stage. Okay, they might not score and you might not win it, but are we going to lose by bringing them on at this stage?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so for me that was a bit, in the end it was like one of them things where it's like you never pay for penalties and this is why.
Yeah, no, I mean, from my point of view as Southgate, I've never been one of these that wanted him out because I've always thought, well, who'd you get? We've tried getting these big foreign names and whatever, and up until probably the 65th minute of the final, I thought he'd played it absolutely perfect in terms of to get us to where we needed to go. I know the group stage wasn't pretty, but I think he was quite open with the fact that they weren't looking to go out and blow these teams away. They were looking to build from a solid foundation. And I agree with that. But like you said, Ib, I think sort of 65, 70 minutes, I think I would have rolled the dice and I think I would have brought these players on because, as you say, the likes of Rashford, Sancho, that bit of pace late on in the game after a long tournament, which has followed a long season that's been crammed in, then I'm always of the opinion that if I was a coach, I wouldn't want to be lying in bed thinking, what if? I'd want to sort of go out and do everything you can to win the game. And if you end up losing, and you've done your best. Yeah, I think the changes were too late.
But you're saying, Max, you're saying 65th, 70th minute, yeah? I'm saying, what about extra time? Like, even the start of extra time or
Oh
5 minutes, 10 minutes into extra time, you've got another half an hour.
yeah,
Like,
no, yeah,
if you were
absolutely.
gonna like leave it at 65th.
But I'm even thinking take a possibility of extra time out of the equation if you can, and try and win it in those 90 minutes. And even if it is then goes to extra time, and we haven't made the changes yet, then yeah, like you say, start of extra time, couple of changes, and really go for them for those 30 minutes. The reason I say about the 65th minute was because of how Italy dominated that second half, and I just feel like we made the one change and we went to the back four with the three in the middle. But yeah, I think I'd have gone earlier and I'd have gone. And I don't like to criticise Southgate because, as we've said, he's given us the best tournaments that any England managers had in our lifetime in terms of where what we've achieved and what stage we've ended up going out in. And it's horrible losing to Italy in penalties, but it's better than losing in normal time to Iceland in their first knockout round. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would have acted quicker, but am I one of these that now thinks he should lose his job over it? No, I think now this next tournament with the young players we've got coming through, they're going to have another year's experience. I think now we've proven that we've got like a solid base to play from. It's now so you got like your back four, Phillips and Rice, and then in front of them, those players need to be making things happen down the other end of the pitch. And if that's a case of starting with Grealish and Sancho and Rashford, whatever, then I think that's the next step that Gareth's got to take to show us that this England team's still going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the next tournament's going to be obviously a big one. Whether he usually international managers don't last that long anyway. I'm talking like 20 or 15, 20 years, like say a club managers of the past used to. You don't really see that anymore with at clubs, let alone obviously international level. Um, so I can't imagine him going past the World Cup, or maybe next Euros as well. But yeah, next tournament, I think even Gary Lineker came out and said or kind of alluded to what we were talking about in terms of being a bit more attacking. He was just saying like we need to take the game to Italy at that point with the amount of attacking players we had. Italy didn't really have that. I mean, they had Chiesa, who was obviously causing a lot of problems, but on the bench, I mean, you don't look at Italy's bench and think, oh my God, like you don't want to bring those players on. But you look at England's bench and you think any one of those players, as the opposition, you're thinking, I do not want to see any of them on the pitch.
Yeah,
And in the end, we just did we did Italy a favor, I think. And obviously that leads us to the penalties, where a lot of people are blaming the players who missed the penalties. So you've got obviously Saka, Rashford, and Sancho. And before we talk about obviously the racism that's come with it, what do you make of Roy Keane's comment of, Saka shouldn't even be taking the fifth penalty?
Um, I I don't know why Roy Keane would say that. I mean, I don't think I'd necessarily have Saka taking the fifth penalty, but I believe that the England team do practice the penalties quite extensively, and there would have been a reason that he was in the first five. I do feel sorry for him because he's a 19-year-old boy, and that's going to follow him around for a while, you'd imagine. But I mean, Roy Keane's not there watching them practice. Roy Keane's not doesn't know any of these players well. He doesn't know what their characters like. It's just for me, just seems like lazy sort of punditry on his part. It's very easy to look and say, "Oh, he's 19. What's he doing?" But I think the notoriously boring Michael Owen actually compiled a list of England penalty misses um, from major tournaments, and I think the youngest player there through history was 24. Everybody else, like David Batty in '98, it's all sort of senior professionals. So I don't know whether sort of there's anything in that, to be honest.
No, I agree. I agree. I think Grealish came out as well on Twitter and he said, I actually offered myself to take a penalty. But at the end of the day, like you said, for me, and I think I've said this before, like as much as I love Roy Keane as a player and as a United legend, I just think as a pundit, he forces the whole trying to be too edgy and saying controversial things. And yeah, I just think like obviously you're not there in the dressing room. You don't know what the players are doing at training. Perhaps Saka is banging them in every
Yeah,
single penalty he's taking in training. Maybe he's banging them in, and just on that day, the nerves got the better of him. And on top of that, obviously you have to give credit to the keeper. He made
yeah,
a save. Like you can't take that
yeah.
away from the keeper either. So yeah, I don't really see anything wrong with the takers of the penalties. Like no one would have had Maguire taking the second penalty,
And what a
but he
penalty, by
did.
the way, that
Clearly,
was.
there's a reason behind that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what a tournament he's had as well,
Yeah, very good.
which we mentioned last time.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
in
But
in
yeah, now
terms of
coming on to obviously, yeah.
no, I was just going to say, going back to the penalty in Saka's age. I mean, did Roy Keane not remember that England's like most prolific penalty taker, Harry Kane, actually missed one in the game before? And
Mm,
okay, he's scored the follow up and England won the game, but if that's a shootout, that's a miss. So
mm.
yeah, again, go on. You were about to say something when I started talking.
No, I was gonna say, obviously, that brings us to the whole thing of the three players that missed were obviously black, and
Yeah,
there's been some uproar from certain England fans. And obviously, the problem always comes back to, even though it's a minority of fans, they end up being the loudest, and there's a lot of, I guess, media attention and things like that. And then it kind of brings the whole nation down. I mean, at a time where, England got to a final, took Italy all the way, it wasn't to be. You would think that at the end of it, you probably think fondly of the players and think, wow, they've taken us as far as they probably could have. And then in the end, it was luck. And even if you want to, like I said, I'm not saying we would blame Southgate, but if you were to blame anyone in the final, you'd have to argue tactics as opposed to the players not putting in effort or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, what do you make of that?
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But unfortunately, I turned and said to my dad after the shootout, it was one of the first things I said. I said, I feel sorry for those boys because you know what they're going to get tonight. And as horrific as it is, unfortunately, it's just not surprising anymore with them receiving obviously racism really regularly online. I mean, especially when you look at Rashford, what he's done for for the country in terms of the
He's done more
children.
than Boris Johnson for the country, hasn't
Yeah, well, I'd certainly agree with that. But yeah, I mean, it's mad, and I don't want to sort of tar people from an unprivileged background with the same brush, but it wouldn't surprise me if one of those people sending a tweet to Rashford or an Instagram DM, whatever it was, comments, wouldn't surprise me if one of those people's children were benefiting from his the school meals that Marcus Rashford pushed for, which just shows you how absolutely crazy the situation is. It's so, like you said, it's so sad because it had been such a positive tournament, and the whole nation was all pulling in the same direction, wanting England to win it, and then obviously in the aftermath of what's already disappointing with losing a penalty shootout, we're confronted with what a lot of people are already aware of, that there's still quite a big racism problem in Britain, in England.
But what I don't get is, like, without getting too political, what I don't understand is why aren't the government doing enough on social media to stop this? Like, for example, we know there's certain things you can't say online, and I mean, in terms of that, it's a good thing. I mean, like, obviously there are certain words that get tracked and traced, whether it's like extremism or
Yep.
whatever, like whatever it is, you send that message, and police will be knocking on your door within 24 hours, right? And but my point is, why can't that the same thing be happening when people are using monkey emojis and saying the N-word? And not even that, even going before, like a step before that, when you're signing up on social media, why aren't these platforms requiring people to put in their ID and address and things like that? I mean, it's a very simple solution. It's almost as if it's not a priority.
Yeah.
When people resort to racism just like that, it tells you that it's a very, very easy thing to do. Like, it's not difficult, and we need to make it as difficult as possible. If there are people, obviously, like with those intentions to go out and intentionally be racist and bring people down and whatnot, we need to make it as difficult as possible for them. But at the moment, it's literally, you can just go online within 5 minutes, make a Twitter account, and just send monkey emojis if you want.
And then that Twitter account gets banned, and 5 minutes later they've set up a new one and they're carrying on. And like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
say, there needs to be accountability for these things, and the whole I've always been a big advocate for having to sort of prove your identity on social media sites, but then there's the counter argument of that's just more data they're gathering, and if you tweet anything against the government and they've got access to who you are or whatever, which is completely fair enough. But why not have like a social media that's a cesspit, which is like it is at the moment, where it's just a free for all. And then if you want to put your name onto another profile and you prove who you are, and then maybe like public figures can use that to talk to like the wider world, and use that to influence things, then maybe that's the way it's going to go, where there's almost like a official um social media platform, and then the rest are just what they are at the moment, which is pretty horrible all the time.
Mm. And like it goes beyond racism. I mean, obviously racism is the bigger issue right now, but like online bullying and people committing suicide over hate messages and things like that, it's happening because there's no accountability. You can go online and say what you want to say, and that's it. Like, you wouldn't majority, I would go as far as saying 99% of the people online who are being racist would not be racist in person. They would not be racist in person.
And
They just know that they're hiding behind the screen.
it's not it's the anonymity as well, but it's also like that coupled with the mob mentality that happens when there's like Twitter pylons. So you're anonymous, but you're within a massive mob of people that are pushing the same thing as you. I just think it's a recipe for disaster. And I mean, I wouldn't mind the sort of financial fortunes that these people get, but I couldn't deal with living my life under a microscope like that, and you've got absolute idiots telling you what you're doing is wrong or whatever. Nah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But,
obviously
yeah.
that's a bigger thing than football. But if we do get back to the football now, I mean, people are saying, why did they But the three players that missed, obviously Saka's missed the penalty, the one that's cost us. But the one I was not disappointed with, but surprised by was Rashford, because he is an absolutely excellent penalty taker. And I, all through extra time, was saying if it's going to penalties, we've got to bring on Rashford. If it's going to penalties, we've got to bring on Rashford. And he missed. And it happens. Like, everybody misses penalties. Look at Kane in the game before, like we just said. But yeah, that was the one that I was most surprised that missed. I wouldn't be having Sancho on my list, and I wouldn't have had necessarily Saka on my list. I think that's just because I've got a weird thing about pacey wingers maybe not being the best technician of a dead ball, but I doubt there's anything in that. I'm sure there's loads of pacey wingers that are great penalty takers, but that's just me personally.
No, I think, and to be honest, again, I don't want to keep going back to this, but if Rashford and Sancho came on 20 minutes earlier, do you think they would have been a bit into the game and a bit more up for it? Because their first kick of the game was to take a penalty that could potentially win England the Euros.
Yeah.
Maybe just I don't know, 15 minutes into the game, getting themselves in the zone, into the game mentally. Probably there might have been a different outcome. But like I
I
said,
agree.
we can talk about ifs and buts, and end of the day they missed, and it is what it is.
And
Yeah.
also I think obviously Italy will be delighted to hear this, but I think you've got to congratulate Italy because I think they played a great tournament. They sort of came in under the radar a little bit. I had them as my dark horse because nobody was really talking about Italy. It was all France and Portugal, and like England got mentioned a little bit, but that's in English media, so it's always going to happen. But Belgium, of course, yeah. I don't think Italy would have been in many people's semi-finals before the tournament if you'd have asked them. But
Oh, definitely.
I think that they've shown that international football is all about the team, because they've obviously Chiesa was the big threat for them on Sunday, but I think it's shown that you can have a team of very good players, and sometimes that's better than having a load of world class individuals in a squad, because they were just so organized. And you got Chiellini and Bonucci who are like 105 combined age, and it, I know people say, and I'm the same. I said you need to get pace on them, but it wasn't just England that didn't expose them for a lack of pace. It was at every team in the tournament, and that's a testament to how good they are at defending. They're never in the wrong position, so that their lack of pace is shown up massively. And I mean, they're a pair of warriors, and Italy have got some good young players. I mean, Donnarumma's going to be in goal for another 20 years for them, and that's just frightening because he was great. He's just a top goalie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
From Bruce, it's not, it's not bad, is it?
no, definitely not. So we've sort of spoke about the final now. Who sort of come out of this tournament for you that maybe you weren't expecting to to be a star of the show?
Well, should we have a look at the team of the tournament and then just see if we
Yeah,
agree with
sure.
it? What the official tournament team was? I think. Hold on. Let's get it up. Have you got it up? Because I'm seeing. I think I've got the official version here.
So from who's not bad, is it? No, definitely not. So um, team of sorry about this.
Oh, there you go. I've got. Yeah, I've got the team there. Should I go for it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we've got Donnarumma in goal,
Yep.
Walker right back, um, No, again, see, I don't think this is correct because here it says Bonucci centre back, but I'm sure Chiellini got it.
I've got Hughes just kindly sent into the group chat. So the official UEFA team of the tournament is Donnarumma, Walker, Bonucci, Maguire, Spinazzola, and then midfield of Højbjerg, Jorginho, Pedri.
I'm sure Chiellini was ahead of him.
Hmm, I would have thought he was, but this is the official UEFA one.
Yeah.
And then you got Chiesa, Lukaku, and Sterling in attack. Is there anyone on
What
that
about
list?
who was that Czech Republic? Was it Czech Republic player? Was it Schick or
Oh
something?
yeah,
I
the
forgot his
striker,
name now.
yeah, Patrick Schick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised he's not there. Um, hold on. What about you?
I mean, yeah, obviously Schick ended up top scorer, but I mean, I'd struggle to argue with any of them really over the whole tournament. I mean, Spinazzola was unbelievable until he got injured, but then would Shaw's form in the tournament maybe edge him out. I think that's the only one that really be contentious. I think Kyle Walker definitely deserves to be in there, as does Maguire. Højbjerg's a
Yeah,
bit of an odd one. I don't think he was particularly unbelievable, but
yeah. I'm surprised again. Probably United bias and the fact that I do admire his footballing ability, but yeah, I'm surprised Pogba's not in there because I thought he had a good tournament until they were up. I actually thought he scored a screamer and got man of the match a couple of games as well. Conte as well. Um,
I think with the French players, I don't think they got deep enough in, did they, to the tournament? Probably.
yeah, but then again, neither did Belgium and Lukaku's in it.
Yeah, true, true.
Yeah, and again, Ronaldo's not there, and I think didn't he get Golden Boot?
I think him
I
and
know
Ship
three of them were
shared it.
penalties.
Yeah,
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 but at the end of the day, his penalties are still goals, right? So I'm surprised. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm surprised Højbjerg's there a little bit. Jorginho was unbelievable. Yeah,
Oh, hang on. What about that Marlow as well that played for Denmark? He'd have been in with a shout. He had a
yeah,
good tournament, but yeah, I mean, yeah, Pedri was Spain's shining light,
yeah.
and yeah,
I'm just on the BBC one, and the BBC one shows um the official Euro 2021 as well, and it's a bit different. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's like some sort of mis. So on the BBC one, it says Luke Shaw was left back. The centre backs were actually Bonucci and Chiellini on this one, and Walker was right back. So yeah, I think there's I don't know what it is, but on the official BBC website, they've got the team of the tournament that was selected by UEFA apparently, but it's a bit different to that. But it is what it is. It can't be that much off anyway. I'm sure it's like two or three players off.
yeah,
Yeah. But regardless, we both probably agree. What did you say? Patrick Schick? You put him in there
yeah. I think,
on it?
yeah, quite probably, yeah, because I
Yeah.
think he sort of scored that amazing goal against Scotland, but he he sort of wasn't. I mean, I wasn't particularly aware of him before the tournament, and he looked like a real handful.
What about Rice or Phillips? Because I'd have one of them at least.
Yeah, yeah, quite possibly for Højbjerg, but maybe they've done that as a little nod to Denmark because they got so deep into the tournament. But I mean, you can't be giving out places in the team. I think Denmark as well were quite similar to Italy in terms of they were just a real good team rather than being full of
Yeah.
star players. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so going to the bread and butter now, which is sort of the domestic Saturday to Saturday football. There's been a few transfers. Jadon Sancho's not actually been announced yet, but I mean it's all but confirmed, isn't it? He's had his medical now, I think.
Yeah. More or less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think is it Varane that they're rumoured to be on the verge of signing as well?
To be honest, I think it's gone beyond rumors now. I think it's got to a point where they're saying like I just saw literally tweets just before we went live that they've agreed personal terms, and these are like, you have like the fake Twitter accounts, and then you have like the ones that are like
Properly
people
in the know.
respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those ones with the blue tick and everything, they're the ones that are saying it. So yeah, it looks like it's a step closer. I'd be very, very like something horribly wrong would have to happen right now for the deal not to go through now with Varane. Um, but yeah, I think all of that will get pushed aside if Chelsea sign Haaland. I
Yeah.
think
I
that will
mean,
just be the
if
story of the
if they
window.
manage to get in, that'd be unbelievable. I mean, I'm still not convinced that they will, but by all accounts, sort of what people are hearing from the club and people close to the club is that Abramovich really does want Haaland to be a Chelsea player. Um, but again, it's going to take a lot of money to get him out there. I think they've apparently had a bid rejected that involved player swaps and things like that. I think Dortmund would just want cold hard cash for him, because it's always a risk taking a player swapping it, because sometimes they come and they're not. Well, there's probably a reason Chelsea don't want them. So, but yeah, I'd love to see him in the Prem, wouldn't you? Yeah, scoring against
Yeah, I
Man
mean,
United.
that's the thing. Like, if Haaland signs, as much as he probably would bang goals against United, you just want to see him in the Prem. I'd mentioned not too long ago about being a fan of Eden Hazard, and when he went, even though he was playing for Chelsea, it was like a sad moment for me. Like, such a good player was leaving Chelsea. So yeah, it just makes you want to watch every game. Like, you want to watch good players play, and it is like, even if it means signing sometimes for rivals, you just want to see it happen. It just
Yeah.
brings more competitiveness to the league, right? And at the moment, like, you look at the other leagues around the world, especially obviously Syria and La Liga, there is just the Prem's where you want to be as a player, right? As a world-class player, you're looking around and you're thinking, wow, all of these top players in the Prem. I'm sure like other players now are thinking if they could get a move to the Prem, they probably would take it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
When you're
surprised.
on about,
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, when you're on about Varane, I was thinking, blimey, um, Real Madrid are gonna have to replace both of their centre halves. I know they've got Eder Militao there, who supposedly was the next big thing when he come over from Brazil, but he's sort of failed to nail down a place. But they're two absolute massive players for Madrid, and for them both to go obviously shows that things aren't all rosy in Spanish football. I think the years of sort of Madrid and Barcelona always getting the top player that like the next big thing. I think it's finally caught up with them. They've done one or two bad deals too many, and they're gonna have to really not go back to square one, of course, but sort of readdress the way they're doing things. And it's going to be interesting because Atleti won the league last year. They're not in massive financial problems. They could really sort of strengthen from a position of strength and could win a few titles back to back, I reckon.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I just can't wait for the season to start now. Now that the Euros are finished, just wanna get on with the league now. Just let's
Yeah,
get started and just
I was quite glad it did end because after that I was like, right, I need a little football detox. I've watched so much in the last couple of weeks, and obviously the disappointment of last week. Talking of last week, actually, Donnarumma, he's gone to Milan. He's left AC Milan and he's gone to PSG on a free, which is
yeah.
just mad. But it does
Yeah.
mean now that PSG have only got 9 goalkeepers, which is a worry coming into the next season. So,
Who's how much do you think he would have been worth if he didn't go on a free?
well, it would have broken the Kepa goalkeeper record, 90 million maybe, because of his
90.
age.
Wow.
His age as well. He's 22, isn't he? 22, 23.
Yeah, I was thinking around the region of like 60, but yeah, if you bring his age into it as well, and the
Fact,
tournament he's just had.
fact, Kepper was what 72 million or something.
Yeah, which is mad, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
Was he
but
number
it's
one for Spain?
for who?
Was he number one for Spain, Kepa?
What when he went to Chelsea?
No, I mean like even now, where like
No, no,
how
he's not even in the squad, Kepper.
he
It's
wasn't even in the squad.
no, Unai Simon's number one, the Bilbao goalie,
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
and
Yeah.
you
Who's number
got
two and three?
De Gea's number two, and
Yeah, number two.
then David Sanchez of Brighton was their third goalie.
Wow.
Yeah, which shows um, sort of Kepa's just nowhere near it. He needs a move. He needs to move because he's not going to play at Chelsea. He
Yeah,
just
because
needs.
Mendy, been,
Yeah, he's
he's
been
been.
great. What a story that is as well. Sort of on the dole 4 or 5 years ago, and
Yeah,
now it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, Hugh's not here. Have Liverpool been linked with anyone? I think there's talks of. I was reading yesterday that Yuri Tillmans is apparently keen on moving to Liverpool. Klopp sees him as a good replacement for Wijnaldum.
yeah. But I think probably wants to stay in the. I don't know. Probably can get top four with Leicester, whereas I'm not sure if you get that with Liverpool next season.
Hugh's gonna be smashing his house up. Um, but yeah, no. Hugh just reminded me actually on message that Liverpool were last week. I read it as well that they were rumored to be close to signing Renato Sanchez, who obviously had a pretty
Yeah,
good tournament for Portugal. He's a bit of a
yeah,
strange one, isn't he? Because he left Benfica really young, went to Bayern Munich, and it just seemed like it was too soon for him. He come to the Premier League on loan with Swansea and wasn't great. But I mean, what did you think of him at the Euros, Ib?
yeah. When he came on, he just made instant impact, didn't he? Like every time he came on, it just changed the game. The energy that he brought onto the pitch every time he came on, it just changed it for Portugal. But I don't know. If I'm Liverpool, I would be thinking, like, do I really want to sign a player who hasn't still fulfilled his potential? Like, how old is he now? He's not like he's still. It, he's got to be like mid-20s, right?
I think he's like 24. Hang on, I'm gonna have a look.
20,
We like to operate
yeah.
on facts. He is the grand old age of 23.
Oh, he's only 23. But even then, he's not, unless like he's one of those players who, comes into his prime at like 25, 26 kind of thing. But by the age of 23, you would have hoped that he's kind of stamped his authority a little bit in at some club. But yeah, you never know. Like Bruno Fernandes came good a bit later on in his career, didn't he?
Yeah,
So not that he's a Bruno Fernandes type of player, but yeah. And then again, Liverpool do need to sign someone because last season, obviously, the injuries and things like that, squad depth probably isn't there. And you just got to change it up over time. I think that's one thing about and I'm bringing up history here, but one thing about Fergie was no matter how many times United won the league, there was always additions to the club, and there was always that new face and things like that. So I think Liverpool not doing that or thinking, oh well, we've got the attacking three of Salah, Firmino, and Mane. I know they've got Jota as well now, but I just think they just need to bring in some fresh competition into the squad, which they
yeah,
haven't. Obviously, injuries as well.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I wonder whether Mane and Salah will both be there next season, and if one of them left and they got top dollar for it, I mean, would it be the worst thing to happen to them if they could reinvest it well and, like you say, freshen it up? Because although they've got players coming back from injury, I think that front three could do with at least one new addition. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, Hugh's obviously delighted with us talking about Liverpool. Um, yeah, but I think next season could be one of the most tightly contested Premier Leagues for a while, and people have probably said it every year, but Chelsea under Tuchel look like a transformed team, and if they can add a bit more quality, then happy days. I really like the business United have done in the last 2 seasons. If they do get Varane over the line, and then it's gone a bit quiet, but there was talk of Camavinga, who I think could be a great signing. And then Liverpool got players coming back. Man City are obviously got a really talented team. It could be a hell of a battle for those top 4 places, and we've not even mentioned Leicester, who obviously had a great season last year. And I mean, I don't really consider Arsenal or Tottenham challenging next season for the top 4 at all.
Yeah. Again, but you never know. You never know. Like that's the thing about the Premier League. Like no one expected Liverpool to struggle to make top 4 after winning the league, and they did.
Yeah, you don't know, do you?
So, yeah, you just never know.
Injuries or whatever, yeah, just things happen. But
and if Man City sign, they could potentially run away with the league because Kane
yeah,
just having players like Mahrez around him, and Gundogan, he's scoring 35 goals easy.
easy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Should we call it a day there? Come back next week with maybe a guest and look forward a bit more to the season that's coming up. I'm a bit out of my depth here now because this bit Hugh does every week. But thank you all for listening, watching, whatever it is you've done, whether you've caught up on Spotify or SoundCloud or watched it back on YouTube. We do appreciate people watching. We're still pretty early on, but we want to grow. So if you've enjoyed it, tell your friends, tell your mum, your dad, anyone, your neighbours. Just shout it out the window if you want. But if you want to find us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, In the Net Podcast. Hugh did a good job there and got everything on the same page. So just drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube would be awesome because we want to get our own personal link and we need 100 subscribers. So, but yeah, thanks for listening. Any last words, Ibby?
No, actually, just next week we'll be back next week with hopefully a guest and hopefully talking a bit more about signings. Hopefully Varane will be over the line.
Obviously, we're all waiting on news of which striker Bristol City are going to sign this season. So I think we might do a 4-hour special on that in a couple of weeks. So yeah, make sure you tune in for that. But yeah, once again, thank you. Follow us on the socials, In the Net Podcast, and we will speak to you soon, guys. Thank you.